everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today's video will be a reading vlog of the highest and lowest rated books on my TBR. Normally I would do this video in my bedroom where I have all of my to be read physical books, but it's just really difficult to film in that room because there's not a lot of space between my bed and the bookshelf and I can never really get the right angles. So we're just gonna film this little intro here and I'll go and grab the books after. But yes, this will be a vlog. I'm going to be reading the highest and lowest rated books on my physical TBR, and I do actually have a Goodreads list dedicated to all of my physical TBR books, so this will actually be really easy. I'm just gonna go in that list on Goodreads and look for the highest rated and the lowest. I will link that list down below if you want to see all of the physical books that I need to read. I also did recently do a TBR bookshelf tour, so I will link that video down below if you want to visually see all of the books that I own that I need to read. Okay, so I'm actually just gonna look up the books on here versus my computer because it's just easier to do it on the phone. So I need to screen record. Okay, so I'm gonna go on my Goodreads and my TBR shelf. I have, I think, 160 books on here. So then we are going to go sort by rating. I think that's the wrong thing. I think we sort by average rating. Sorry, not rating, average rating. So I think this will be the highest rated. So the highest rated we have Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare, which is the second book in the last hours. So that one I won't be reading, but the second one is Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare, which is the first book in the last hour series, and it has a average rating of 4.40. And it looks like there's over 100,000 ratings for this book. So that, I guess, is my highest rated book that I will be reading. So now let's look into my lowest rated. Oh, we have a little bit of a tie. Angelica Frankenstein Makes Her Match by Sally Thorne, which has a 3.33. And then Love in the Time of Serial Killers by Alicia Thompson also has a 3.33. The Sally Thorne one has less ratings versus Love in the Time of Serial Killers. But I feel like because Goodreads organized it this way, I should probably just go with the Sally Thorne one. So I think that will be the lowest rated one that I read. Okay, Chain of Gold is right here. And then the Sally Thorne book is down here. So these will be the two books that I'm reading for this vlog. I have obviously read pretty much all of Cassandra Clare's books aside from this series. And then I think she recently came out with a new fantasy book that I haven't read, but I've pretty much read all of her Shadowhunter books aside from this series. So I'm actually really excited to start this one and get back into this world and meet these new characters. And then for Angelica Frankenstein Makes Her Match by Sally Thorne, I have read, I think, only two Sally Thorne books. I of course read The Hating Game, which I absolutely loved. I do consider it one of my favorite books. And then I did read 99% Mine, and I didn't really enjoy that one. Like, I didn't enjoy it as much as The Hating Game. So I'm interested to see how I feel about this one. I mean, obviously this is very low rated, but I feel like it could surprise me. And these are both kind of like fantasies. Well, I don't think this is fantasy. I'm not exactly sure the genre for this one, but this is obviously fantasy paranormal. So I'm very excited to read both of these. I'm going to start with Angelica Frankenstein Makes Her Match first, just because I kind of want to end the video more on a high, and I have a feeling I will love Chain of Gold, so I'd rather start with the lowest rated one first. I mean, I could end up not liking Chain of Gold, but I do have a feeling I will like that book because I love Cassandra Clare. So I'm going to start with this one first. This book is 354 pages, so I am hoping to read the entire thing and finish it today. I mean, if I'm really not enjoying it, I could DNF it, but I would like to really try to read the entire thing and do this video properly. So I think I'm just gonna go ahead and start reading this one. I'm currently 90 pages in. I am about to start chapter 8 and I'm not hating it, but it is definitely a strange read. I'm just gonna read kind of the back to explain the story because I feel like it's not really complicated, but it's just better if I read it. For generations, every Frankenstein has found his or her true love and equal. But clever, pretty, and slightly odd Angelica Frankenstein has run out of suitors, and she fears she may become the exception to this family rule. As she assists her brother Victor in his groundbreaking experiment to bring a reassembled man back to life, she embarks upon a side project that is all her own. When Angelica's handsome scientific miracle wakes up on the operating table, her wishes for an instant romantic connection are dashed. Her resurrected beau has total amnesia and is solely focused on uncovering his true identity. I'm liking the vibes of this book. It's giving gothic, historical, dark, and I don't mind the third person point of view. I think it is really working for the story itself because it's such a strange story. I mean, this female character basically like assembled this man into like her perfect man, and he is alive and breathing, which is very strange. I'm just not really connecting with the characters, and I do find that the relationship between Victor and Angelica is a little weird. Like, I just find that their like sibling relationship is kind of strange. The story itself is pretty fast paced. Like, you really just jumped straight into the story. There was kind of no like slow lead up. It was like literally the characters were trying to start their scientific project. I can already see why it has such a low rating. It's just like not the most appeasing story, if that makes sense. It is like sort of historical fiction because it does take place in 1814. So it does have that like historical, dark, gothic vibe, which I am enjoying that aspect. And the Frankensteins are rich, so they have a lot of luxuries, which is interesting to read about. I'm just kind of confused on like what the point of the romance is, I guess. I don't know. The vibes are fun, but I'm just not loving the characters or the romance, I guess. So I don't know. I'm gonna keep reading though. I do see myself finishing the entire book. I'm currently halfway through this book and I am enjoying it a little bit more, but there are some things that are kind of bothering me. Also, I just realized I have been saying the title of this book wrong. It's Angelica. I don't know why I've been saying Angelica. Angelica Frankenstein makes her match. Because at one point Angelica does comment on her unique name and she says it's angelic, but with a K-A. So it's Angelica. I feel like I do that a lot where I like look at a word or like a title and I mispronounce it, or like it sounds different in my head than when I'm saying it out loud. But yes, I'm on page 177, about to start chapter 17, and I kind of started getting more into it around the 100-page mark. I just found the story to be a little bit more intriguing and entertaining. However, I don't love the characters and I feel really bad for Will. Will knows absolutely nothing about himself. Like, he doesn't know who he is. I feel bad that he was essentially just like brought back to life with different body parts just for Angelica. Like, that was the whole purpose of him, and it feels weird. I don't know. I don't love that aspect. Angelica is already talking about like how she loves Will, but there's literally like nothing to know about him. Like, she doesn't know anything about him other than he's kind and he physically looks like what she wants because she literally made him. So I'm just like kind of weirded out by all of that. There's also like a strange power dynamic in that way because Will knows nothing about himself and he just lives at the Frankenstein house, and Angelica is just like giving him everything. She's like, all I want to do is like give him stuff and like have him love me forever, and it feels a little weird to me. And like I said, the conversations between Victor and Angelica are also kind of weird. Like, they're siblings, but they openly talk about sex, and it's just weird. Like, I just don't like that. I just feel like this book is so perverted. There's like a constant conversation about Will's dick and how like Angelica picked it. Will is often claiming that he like has no control over his own body, and so everything just feels weird. And there's something about that makes me kind of uncomfortable to read about. I think it would have been different if Angelica just brought Will back to life in his normal body. Like, I don't think I would have had a problem with that, but because she like specifically picked out parts of him and put him together, it's weird. But like, the positives of the story is that I'm enjoying like the atmosphere and the vibes. We were introduced to 2 new characters, which I'm liking, Christopher and Clara. I am enjoying those 2 additions to our little story, and I like how there's some new staff for the Frankensteins. I do like how Will has an influence on Angelica to be kinder and to give more of her fortune to those who are not as fortunate as she is. I am liking that he's making her into a better person, but I just feel really bad for him, and I hope we actually find out more about him and who he is. I definitely want to keep reading, so I will for sure finish this, but yeah, I'm not loving it. I feel a little weird about some of the story, but I am curious to see what happens. So I finished Angelica Frankenstein Makes Her Match by Sally Thorne, and I think I'm gonna give it like a 2.5 out of 5 stars. It's not completely a 2 because I did enjoy elements of this book, and I did enjoy the end. I had a moment where I thought that it wasn't gonna be like a happy ending, or that it wasn't like a true romance book, but it is a romance book, so there was some sort of happy ending. I got like a tad bit emotional towards the end. I think like on the last chapter when Victor was finally doing something for Angelica, you could just tell in that moment that he really cared about his sister, and I really thought that that was a beautiful moment, and I kind of teared up at that part. This book was just very odd and different, and I didn't love it, but I also didn't hate it. Like, obviously there were elements that made me a little uncomfortable. It's been years since I read A Hating Game, and I don't know if I would still love it now if I read it, but I do remember loving it a lot when I first read it. Obviously I still would prefer that one versus this one, but this one was definitely more sexual, which is just something I didn't really expect. I just thought it was kind of like, you know, a historical romance with like the occasional sex scene or something, but I feel like there was always some sort of reference to sex, or there was just like some inappropriate comments from like siblings regarding like sex with their partners and stuff, and it was just kind of a little off-putting in that way. I just felt bad for Will this entire book. I did enjoy the ending. I enjoyed the epilogue. It was beautiful to see all these characters become kind of a family and finally admit to each other that they cared for one another, and they just kind of became like this huge extended family, which I did think was very beautiful. It kind of felt like the lesson of the book, if that makes sense. Even though I didn't love this book, it still would have been nice to read it in the fall time because it is giving very autumnal or rainy day vibes, which is one thing I enjoyed about this book. I liked the atmosphere and this like gothic historical era. I just didn't really love the characters or the romance. The plot was just a little too odd for me. There definitely could have been some changes that would have made it easier to enjoy, I guess. Regardless, I am glad that I read it and gave it a chance and read the entire thing. I do agree with the rating. I do think that the like 3.33 average rating makes sense. I can see some people really enjoying this book because it did have some very like romantic elements. There were a lot of beautiful declarations of love. There were a lot of beautiful quotes, and I definitely could see people enjoying that aspect of this book and the whole atmosphere and the vibe, but I totally understand the average rating for this book. Oh yeah, I guess I never really commented that there's kind of a love triangle in here, which does kind of come out of nowhere, but it, in my opinion, did make sense, and I actually liked that aspect. I did still enjoy some aspects of this book, so I am going to stick with my 2.5 to 2 star rating. It is almost 9 p.m. for me right now, so I think I'm going to do a couple of things to kind of get ready for bed, and then I probably will start Chain of Gold. I think I'm going to read maybe a chapter or two. Obviously, Cassandra Clare's books are extremely long and her chapters are very long, so I probably will only get to 1 or 2 chapters. I don't want to read too much tonight because I am kind of tired, but I do want to get a start on this. I do want to talk about how beautiful this edition is, by the way. This is the collector's first edition. I did buy this when it came out, and I believe I got this from the Indigo book box, I'm pretty sure. I can't remember if it was this one or the second book, but I did do a video unboxing it whenever this came out. I will link that video down below, I guess, but I did get this beautiful edition that does have this end page of all of the characters, and then it is signed, which is very nice. I think I have one other Cassandra Clare book that is signed, but I think it's like the pre-printed signature, like it's not like this. I'm very excited to read this because this I've been meaning to read since it came out like years ago. When did this come out? Wow, this came out back in 2020. That is embarrassing. I used to read Cassandra Clare books the day they would come out, and I have been putting this off for 4 years. I kind of had a feeling that this was going to be the highest rated book on my physical TBR, and I'm kind of glad it is because now it's forcing me to read this. I'm very excited to get back into this world and meet some of these new characters. Obviously, there are some characters that I do know appear in here, like Will and Tessa, because I believe this is about the Herondale kids. So I think this is about Will and Tessa's kids, I do believe. So I am very excited to jump into this book. I'm currently 150 pages into Chain of Gold. I'm about to start chapter 6. I honestly don't have much thoughts right now because I feel like we're just kind of getting into the plot. Like there's finally been some action and some stuff happening, so I'm assuming the plot is going to pick up a little bit now, but it is so weird to be back in this world. I think the last Shadowhunter book I read was Queen of Air and Darkness. It was in 2018. Was it really in 2018? It's been a while, so it has been nice to be back in this world with these characters and just read more about Shadowhunters and everything going on. I'm very hesitant to pick who to ship because I don't know if it's going to be a full-on love triangle or who's gonna end up with who. Yeah, I just don't really know who to ship yet. So I'm gonna kind of maybe wait until later on in the book, or I might just wait until I finish the book because I'm scared. I don't know who to ship. I don't know who to like. It has been nice to see some Will, Tessa, and Jem, whom I really, really love. And I mean, Clockwork Princess is one of my favorite books of all time. So it is nice to see those characters in here as grown adults and as parents, essentially. I will say there are a lot of characters, and even though I do feel like I know who is who, it is sometimes kind of confusing on who is related to who. I'm gonna try to read the entire thing today because I would love to finish this vlog today. But I am feeling quite tired, so I don't know how fast I can read this. I'm feeling very sleepy. I am currently a little over half, just a smidge. I'm on page 313, about to start chapter 13. That is weird. There's some 13s going on here. It's kind of freaking me out. Okay, even though I obviously love the Shadowhunter worlds and I love Cassandra Clare's books, I'm finding this one quite slow, and I think it's just because it's kind of setting out for, you know, the characters in the world and set up for the next books in the series, which makes sense. Obviously, I don't really want to spoil things, but there was like a death, I guess. I don't want to elaborate, but I just didn't really expect there to be any characters that would die in this first book. Obviously, I expect it in like the second and third book in a Cassandra Clare book, but not the first one. So that kind of threw me off. And I honestly just kind of started tearing up a little bit because I didn't really expect it. It kind of felt like in a way it came out of nowhere. And also the page I just read, 312. What is happening? Like, I have been kind of suspicious of this character since day one. Who is this person? I really need to know. I'm very confused on who this character is. I need to know what they're up to. Also, there's been some like secret romances that I haven't really anticipated, so that's kind of been fun. Even though it is taking me a while to read this, I am enjoying it. And I will say Cordelia reminds me a lot of Emma. James obviously reminds me a lot of Will, of course, but like a true mix of Will and Tessa, which I love. So yeah, I'm going to keep reading and hopefully finish it tonight. I am currently on page 478 and I'm about to start chapter 20, and honestly I think I'm going to stop reading for today. My eyes hurt. I feel like I'm kind of getting a headache. I just have been reading all day and I am exhausted, and I know that if I keep reading I'm gonna just start skim reading, which is like the worst thing ever. Obviously read these last few chapters with more of a clear mind, and so even though I wanted to finish reading it tonight, I'm just gonna have to finish it tomorrow. I don't know if it's because I'm tired and it's been taking me so long to read this, but I'm honestly not enjoying it as much as I enjoyed other Shadowhunter books. I don't know if it's the characters or this storyline, but I'm not loving it, which sucks. It kind of feels like there isn't much of a plot, which I guess could be just because it's the first book in a new series. I feel like I just can't really think straight, so I'm gonna go to bed and continue my read of this tomorrow. my god. Well, I finished it. Finally finished it. I am going to read this last little bit, which is a bonus story featuring Will and Tessa. So I'm going to read that really quick and then talk about my thoughts. So I think I'm going to give Chain of Gold a 3 out of 5 stars, which is kind of shocking for me because I don't think I've ever rated a Shadowhunter book that low. I think I've given most of them 4 or 5 stars, so this is honestly probably one of my least favorites. The ending wasn't as shocking as I thought it was going to be. I mean, there was some shocking revelations with characters and the direction that that is going to go into in the next book. I do own the next 2 books, so I will be reading the series. I will be finishing it. I'm kind of disappointed that I didn't love this that much. It just felt kind of slow, kind of dragged. I wasn't super obsessed with the characters. I feel like I could probably like the second book better just because I'll be used to the characters and I'll kind of know like where the story is going, I guess, or like the plot, because I didn't really know anything about the plot, to be quite honest. I just knew who the characters were. I just feel like not much kind of happened in the beginning. Like it was a setup for the characters and the world and stuff, and then we kind of got into some of the plot, but I feel like the second and third book will have much more going on probably. I still don't know entirely like who to ship, so I think that's why it's also kind of weird for me to read this book, because in past Shadowhunter books I feel like it's very obvious who you should ship or who you should want together, and it kind of works out. But this one I'm just like, I don't really know. I'm very hesitant to ship people together. I will say my favorite characters are probably Cordelia, James, Matthew, and Lucy. They're probably my favorite, which I mean is kind of like the main group, I guess. So I did enjoy reading about them and everything that was going on with them. Even though obviously this is about new characters and kind of a new timeline, I feel like the stories are kind of repetitive from the other Shadowhunter books. Like there's a lot of similar plots, a lot of like secret relationships, and that just feels very reminiscent of the previous books in this world. It just kind of felt like something we've already read in this world, in this series. The last 2 chapters did kind of shock me. The epilogue kind of shocked me as well. Not the villain necessarily, but just like the connection, I guess, or like what the villain is trying to do. I also caught on to one thing regarding James and Grace. It's just going to be very interesting to see how everything else plays out in the next books. Yeah, unfortunately I didn't love it as much as I thought I would, and I definitely did not give it the same rating as the average rating for this is, which is interesting. I definitely gave both of the books lower ratings than the average ratings for them are on Goodreads. Because Angelica Frankenstein Makes Her Match, I think was a 3.3 and I gave it like 2 stars. And Chain of Gold, this is a 4.40. So I rated both of them kind of like a star less than their average rating. I definitely prefer Chain of Gold over Angelica Frankenstein Makes Her Match. This was a fun experiment. I did actually have fun reading these books, even though Chain of Gold took me forever to read. I did have fun with this challenge and seeing if I agreed with the average ratings. Clearly I did not. I would like to do this challenge again, but I'm probably gonna have to wait a long time because I mean, we kind of saw what the next books would be. If there is any other challenges similar to this that you want me to do, please let me know down below. Let me know if you have read these books and what you think about them. I hope you guys enjoyed this vlog. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to give it a like, subscribe, follow me on all my other social media, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!